beautiful. That was beautiful. Thanks for the great meditation, too. Yeah. So today we're going to talk about, are you strong enough? So when we think about this question and we define the word strength, do we automatically think of a strong man? Yeah. Or does that idea of what strength means conjure up our weaknesses? Do we automatically go to the place of thinking about what we're not strong in, what we're weak in? And that changes everything totally. But today we're going to look at the 12 powers. Charles Fillmore defined the 12 powers, and strength is one of the 12 powers. We're going to explore how strength can work and not work in our lives. And by the time we're complete, we hope to have some great strategies to be able to allow us to use strength in our lives to our fullest ability. So let's start with our statements of truth, shall we? I am a child of God. I am deserving of good in my life. I am accepting my good now. So Charles Fillmore defined the 12 powers, and this is his little chart that he made. And what it is each power has a body part that it's attributed to. And strength happens to be in your lower back. And it's kind of like along the lines of chakras, if you know anything about that. But Fillmore actually gave each power a body part and a disciple that follows along with it. And the disciple for strength happens to be Andrew, who is the brother of Peter. And Peter represents faith. And we're going to learn a little bit more about that in a minute. But the idea of Andrew's name actually means strong man. So that's how come he was attributed to them. Also, because we align strength and faith together. And how that happens is you have to have faith in order to go forth with anything. And when you know that you have enough strength within you, then you have that power of faith working along with strength. That's why the brothers were important in determining this. But all of us have probably heard the saying, lift with your legs, not with your back. And if you've ever lifted something really heavy and didn't use your legs, then you used your back, you strained your back, didn't you? That's a perfect example of using the power of strength incorrectly, not for your highest good. And of course, I'm talking about the physical sense here. Another example of misusing the power of strength in a physical manner is overdoing or underdoing exercise. We see it all the time. We see people that have overdone exercise and they've built themselves up so big that they can't even hardly move, let alone find clothes that fit them. Then we've also seen people that have underdone exercise and get to the point where they can't hardly move and can't find clothes to fit them. So we have the two extremes, both representing a misuse of strength. So the deal is to find the balance in the middle, right? To find the balance where our lives can be in that place of physically demonstrating strength for our highest good. Now, we can use physical strength in a positive way by exercising, by eating correctly, by paying attention to all the physical aspects of ourselves and the messages we might be receiving. Sometimes we get a little ping in our body somewhere. Maybe that's a message coming through to you. You can always look on the chart, too, and see what power is speaking to you. Maybe that ping is always coming up in a certain spot. I used to always get headaches right here on the side of my head. Well, that was God's will. That's the power for God's will. I wasn't following God's will, and what would happen? Physically, my body would react. So Fillmore did a lot of research, and there is research around this. And we've all been to the point where we also just take our bodies and push it to the point where we think, we can just keep on going day after day without stopping and taking time to relax or take it easy. We think we have to stay busy because that's what our mind is telling us to do. Our mind says, oh, if you sit down and relax for a while in prayer and meditation, you've got to get up and go do the dishes, or you really need to vacuum, or whatever it is, and you push your body to the point of exhaustion. And then we get to the point where we no longer can move, and we might be in bed for a couple of days or a couple of weeks because we've pushed our bodies to the point of not working properly. And that's misusing the power of strength once again. And if we're not using our strength to help us, then we need to mentally look at how we can move that idea of listening to our bodies in a physical sense and listening to our minds and getting that switched over. Because, you know, we get to choose what we're going to focus on. We've talked about this before. We get to decide what we're going to do and not do in our lives. And have you ever been to the place where you say, oh, I can't handle anymore, I'm so tired, or I just can't do this anymore? We've all been there, haven't we? Yeah. It can make us feel so weighted down, so hopeless, and it can put us in that mental funk that feels as if we'll never surface again. It is like a part of us is gone. But you know what? It's not really gone. It's just hiding. Because what we've done is we've pushed aside that God-given power of strength and allowed our minds and our will to be the most thing in the forefront of what we're doing, and we're not taking those times to say, wait a minute, hey, wait, I don't need to be doing this right now. We've pushed aside God in that action. We've pushed aside not only the power of strength, but we've pushed aside God and just kept on plowing through. We've seen it in people. We've seen it in ourselves. When we get to the point that we're tired or whatever, I mean, our facial expression shows it. Our bodies will start showing it. You know, we'll come to church and we'll just be like, oh, God, I'm so tired. Well, what's wrong? Well, I've just been so busy all week. Well, hello. You know, if you're tired and you've been so busy all week, you're doing something that isn't healthy for you. And you have to switch that thinking. You have to switch the way you're doing things. And that's where the power of strength in our minds comes into play. And once we start thinking about what I can do differently, you're already turning on that power of strength mentally. It's our free will that allows us to choose what we're going to do in our lives and what we're not going to do in our lives. We get the choice. So which is it going to be? Are we going to push ourselves to the place of physically not being able? Then our mental state of mind gets messed up because we get into that funk. And then spiritually, we can't even find God in the midst of us because we're amok. Or are we going to use that power of strength to guide us, to build us into that perfect being and expression of God that we are meant to be? It's our choice. We get to decide. We get to decide how this all comes together. But we can enhance our mental capacity of strength by reading, by coming to book studies, by coming to classes. You can do lumosity. You can do Sudoku. You can even do puzzles. It's scientifically proven that all of these things will help your mental capacity of strength build. And we all know this, don't we? And we can utilize that. So then we're working on that mental power. We know how to work on that physical power, and we're moving forward. But how do we activate that power of strength spiritually? That could be the question of the day, huh? And what really is the power of strength spiritually? Well, it's when we can align our mind, our body, and our spirit into that perfect balance. Not the extreme out here, not the extreme out here, but that perfect balance of that expression of who we are supposed to be. That's when we are activating that power of strength. And where do we find that? Well, actually, strength spiritually and metaphysically means God's energy. Isn't that beautiful? God's energy. So if we think of strength just being God's energy, it's huge. That just is a shift in our mindset right there, isn't it? Strength is no longer, how strong am I? Or can I do one more thing today? No. Strength is God's energy moving in and through us. And when we use it correctly, it turns us on. It gives us all the steam and fire we need to be that expression of God that we want to be. So, you know, there's a bunch of things we can do besides taking a break now and then. We can take little mini vacations. They just came back from, what, Cozumel? No. Bahamas, yeah. They took a little break from life. You can take a break on the weekend. You can take a break just grabbing a book and sitting in the sun and reading it. I know Kay likes to do that out on her deck, and she's probably doing it right now as we speak. because we went to Botanical Garden yesterday and we wore out. But anyway, that's another story. She's taking care of herself, though. There's ways for us to physically take a break. There's ways for us to mentally stimulate our brains and take a break from everyday life by utilizing some of these tools. And what is it doing? Turning on the power of that. But much like the physical and the mental, we have to think about tuning up our spiritual strength too. And how do we do this? How do we? Oh, there's God's energy. Yeah, one behind. Keep our spirituality tuned up in order to keep the power of strength activated. How do we do that? Well, we're always looking for the answers, aren't we? We want somebody to give us the answers too, don't we? And everybody knows where the answers are. You can scream now. Go ahead, scream. Doesn't that just drive you crazy? Because you'll ask somebody a question and they'll say, "You know the answer." And you want to go, "If I knew the answer, I wouldn't be asking you in the first place." Not staying spiritually centered in that moment. No. But the answer is within. And in all seriousness, we find that answer by listening for the answer through meditation and prayer. We have to take our prayer time. We have to do our prayer work. Think of it as work if you can't get it into your day, because by golly, you'll get everything else into your day. When you're feeling your body speaking to you in some kind of crazy way, whether it be a headache or pig in your shoulder or your elbow. Yeah, shoulder, elbow? No. Yeah, you got me. Or even your feet are beginning to hurt. Take a break and go to prayer and meditation. That's your body speaking to you saying, realignment needed, realignment, reboot, stop the madness. And when you do that, you'll find that source, that one source, that God source that is within you, that is ready to be that unfailing strength in any time of need. And that's all we have to do. And you might be saying to yourself, "Well, I've tried that, but it didn't really work. What am I supposed to do now?" Well, that's when Andrew's brother can help us. Andrew's brother, Peter, the one who represents faith. Because sometimes we have to strive forth with faith, knowing that our answers are going to come. Knowing that the answer could be there in the next breath you take. And sometimes they don't come right away. Sometimes they come while you're driving down the street. Sometimes they come when you're pushing that cart in the grocery store. Sometimes your answers come when you take that break to go to the restroom. I mean, your answers are going to come. You have to be willing to be open and receptive to receiving them. And if you're not, then that's when you need to go back to prayer and meditation and say, "Open me up to receiving my answers," and allow that spiritual strength to guide you in receiving them. We have to stop, and we have to tell ourselves, just stop the madness. One more article on the computer, no. Tell yourself you need to reboot. You need to reboot and give yourself a little moment. And that moment can be the changer of the whole game. Little sports metaphor in there. I did good, didn't I? It just threw in too. God was working in through me on that one. But we all have those moments. We all have those moments where we think, hey, I can't do anymore, and I want to. And so we have to churn and change that. Fillmore gives us a little hint in this a little bit from Adam's Smashing Power of Mind. Divine mind is the one and only reality. When we incorporate the ideas that form divine mind into our mind and persevere in those ideas, a mighty strength wells up within us. Then we have a foundation for the spiritual body. The body not made with hands, but the body eternal in the heavens. When the spiritual body is established in consciousness, its strength and power is transmitted to the visible body and to all things that we touch in the world about us. You see, Fillmore wrote this 70 years ago, and it's truth. It still applies today. And we can take these words because, you see, we have to start, what he's saying is we have to start with the spiritual mind, the spiritual strength first. Because when we align with that spiritual strength, it all comes through us as strength and power and transmitted to the visible body. And then it goes out to the world. So if we think it's all about us and our physical bodies going out there and plugging forth, no. It's about first stopping and getting that spiritual strength. Because then when we do that, it all comes through us exactly how it's supposed to, and we will be expressing it out into the world, and everybody will want to know what we're doing. They will want to know because it's going to be showing through us. And that's what it's about. From the Bible, Nehemiah 10 says, Nehemiah said, "Go and enjoy choice food and sweet drinks, and send some to those who have nothing prepared. This day is holy to our Lord. Do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength." Like the potluck today. Right? Wasn't that perfect? Yay. God sent me that one. Okay. And remember that the Lord, translated, is the I am, that Christ within us. So if we read this, do not grieve, for the joy of the Christ within is your strength. It's easy to know that we have to go to that spiritual self first before we go forth and decide what we're going to do. And the thing about it was Nehemiah was sharing this with the people because he was over-elated with the truth, that truth that we all know inside. Maybe you're getting it today. Maybe you're getting that spark of truth on fire inside of you. Well, Nehemiah was like that. And he was reading from the book of laws, those first 5 books in the Bible that they call the Torah. He was reading from those to the people, and he wanted them to be on fire as much as he was. So he read this, and then he was telling them that you too can go out and be this. You too can go out and share not only what you have as far as physical food or physical beingness, but spiritually feed each other, spiritually be in that place of communion with each other. And that same thing holds true for us. That truth is that capital T truth that is always there for us, and we can go out and share that too. No matter what we face, God is in the midst of us. No matter what we are called to do, God can help us through it. And no matter what everyone around us in the world is doing today, we can use the power of strength to send the truth, that capital T truth, to God's love to them in all those other countries where they're doing crazy stuff. For God is in the midst of them too. And we have to remember that. So let's revisit this question one more time. What can we do to build our strength? Well, there's another thing that I found this couple weeks ago that we can do to build our strength. We can practice body language techniques. Believe it or not, from TED.com, and that's a little bit small for some people maybe, but body language affects how others see us. But it may also change how we see ourselves. Social psychologist Amy Cuddy shows how power posing, standing in a posture of confidence, even when we don't feel confident, can affect testosterone and cortisol levels in the brain and might even have an impact on our chances for success. Now, what's important about the testosterone and cortisol levels in your brain, that also affects, anybody know? Body fat. So she's even done scientific research that this helps with body fat, especially the fat in the middle of your body. And Amy Cuddy's research on body language reveals that we can change other people's perceptions and even our own body chemistry simply by changing our body position. So we're going to practice some poses this morning so that you can strengthen your strength. So the first one is, you get to do it just sitting right down there right now. It's called the businessman's pose, or I call it the businesswoman's pose. But everybody take your hands, put them behind your head, and then lean back like you just know what you're doing. And you're the businessman. Yes, very good, very good. Okay, now, the second one. Everybody stand up. You're going to win the race. It's kind of like yoo-hoo, but like winning the race. You're winning the race. Everybody, yes. You've won the race.
Touchdown, too.
Yes.
Touchdown. Home run.
Kind of like woohoo.
Woohoo.
Hey, this is a good one because it's like woohoo. We've been doing this one. Okay, the third one. Here you go. Stay. Superwoman pose. Okay, everybody. Get your legs spread. It's Superman too. But you're gonna stand here and pose like Superwoman. Now, don't you feel powerful? Yes. Don't you feel strong? Yes. So she says. Okay, you can sit down now. She do this 2 minutes before you do anything. Before you do a job interview, before you give a talk, before you're going to a situation like even coming to church or going to a party where there's a gathering, where there's a group of people, and maybe you're kind of thinking, do I really want to go in there? Do I really want to face everybody? But it gives you some strength, and it switches that whole testosterone and cortisol in your body. But the cool part about it is that she's done research that the people that did these power poses before they went in actually were the ones that were more confident. And you can watch the whole thing on TED.com, but it's amazing. But the most powerful thing about this whole story, and practice these, really practice them. I'm gonna be watching to see if I can point out who's been doing power poses. I'll come up to you and say, "You've been doing power poses." That's your favorite one, I know. So there's Amy Cuddy. The cool part was, at 19, she was had a very high IQ and was in college. And she was in a car accident and had a brain injury and woke up in a head trauma unit, and they told her that she'd never be able to finish college. And she didn't understand that. You know, she said, no, that's not going to happen. She's going to go to college. And so, you know, everybody around her was saying, you know, you can go to technical school, or maybe you can get a little training and do this particular job. And she was like, no, that's not going to happen. So she went on to become, and is currently, a Harvard professor and researcher. Yeah, and she admits, though, struggling through school, how it took her more time than some people. But she said she had an instructor who encouraged her to fake it until she made it. So that was what her thesis became to this research that she started doing. But with this advice, she carried forth and she became successful. However, one day that she realized that she was no longer faking it, that she had actually made it. And then she said to herself, wow, it's beyond just making it. It's about believing it. And she realized that everything that she had done up to that point was believing that she could do it, was believing that she was more than what everybody else around her was telling her. So she changed the quote to, fake it until you believe it, which we know is the power of power of faith in action. And so she used that power of faith to get her to that place of having enough strength to be successful in her life. She used it in the most powerful way to change what everybody else was saying about her and become successful and be all she could be. And she proved it. I mean, kind of like Fillmore did with a lot of the spiritual principles. She went and actually built a thesis around this idea of faking it until you make it, and found things that would help enhance people's lives by those power poses. The most important thing I loved about her presentation on TED.com was, she said, share her power poses with others. You see, she realized that the capital T truth cannot be kept exclusive, and the power of sharing with others strengthens all people. Jesus freely shared, Amy Cuddy freely shares, and so can we freely share. Because it is in the nature of the oneness of God to freely give so that we can freely receive. You see, God gives us all the strength, all the love, all the peace, all that we need to be the best us that we can be in the world. And it takes practice, and it'll take doing some of those power poses. No, he's not doing it anymore. But once we practice to the place where we believe it, where we truly believe it, we can stand strong and know and claim together. Everybody want to stand up with me and say it? I am strong enough. Yes. Thank you for being here today.